All right, so I want to give you a quick tutorial for one more way that you can control animations using the Animator component. So in a lot of games, so what we've seen so far is that you can trigger transitions between different animation states. So I have my punching and my yelling, and I can jump from one to the other. But what you see in a lot of computer games and so on is a character that's running around that's sort of smoothly transitioning from running sideways, running forward, jogging, walking slowly, all based on the input of an analog stick or a mouse or whatever. So it's able to sort of sit between different animation states, right? So I've gone ahead and I've downloaded animations from Mixamo for an idle pose. So we can see it here, standing there, looking around, running, walking backwards, walking forwards. So we have a few kind of sample animations that we'll be able to interpolate between. Say if we want to kind of jog, we want to be somewhere halfway between walking and running. And we don't need to make another animation for that. We can actually kind of combine walking and running together to make it. So the first thing that we're going to do, I've deleted all the other animation states out of the animator. So I can create what's called a blend tree. And this is what's going to let us blend multiple animations together. So I'll right click, create state, and then from new blend tree. And then I'll double click on the blend tree and I can actually get in here and edit it. So you can see when I created the blend tree, it has this slider on it. And it also created a parameter here, which is a float. So this is the same as if I'd gone up here and hit float to create a new one. And I'm going to change the name of this to something descriptive. I'll call it, say, forward speed. So now I need to actually add animations to the blend tree so that I can blend between them. So I do that by selecting this main node. And then here I can add animations to this motion list. So I'll click the plus button, add motion field, and then I'll start with the idle animation. I'll click and drag that into my motion field. And you can see once I did that, it added that. So this blend tree has this idle motion attached to it. And I'll keep adding more. So you can see that time it created this graph, now that I have more than one. So I'll go walking, add that, and then add motion field, running. Okay, so each of these, and this is already laid out basically the way we want. We have idle at 0, walking at 0.5, our halfway point, and then running at 1. So when we're in here, you can see I can actually hit play here to preview what the blend tree will sort of look like when we're in motion. And then while that preview is playing, I can click this slider and drag it. So now we're sort of maybe about halfway between our idle animation and our walking. So he's sort of walking and looking around. And then at 0.5 or so is pretty much just the walking animation that I picked out. 0.75, he's kind of at this awkward, almost a run, but not quite. And then here at 1, he's at his full tilt kind of running animation. So you can already see kind of how powerful that is if you want to use a joystick or something to have much more fine-grained control over the animation. You don't have to make a billion different animations. You make a few, and then it can kind of interpolate between them. So I'll go ahead and add one more, which will be, and you can see this kind of is trying to space them all evenly between 0 and 1. So now they're 0, 3, 3, 3, and 6, 6, 6, and 1. But this one's going to be for walking backwards, so I'm going to have to rearrange these a little bit. So I'll select my walking backwards animation, drag it in here, and then I'm going to change this threshold value. Oh, can I even? Okay, yeah, I just had to mess with it a little bit. So I'll set this one to -0.5, let's say, And then I'll change the rest of these to be correct. And you can see it reordered these in the list automatically. Okay. Now, the last thing to do is actually make this respond to our input using a script. Here's our walking backwards animation. He kind of looks back behind him and walks that way. So we have to actually change our script. So I'll go and select my game object here with the script attached, this trigger animator script. I deleted what we did in there before out of it, so it's basically kind of a fresh thing. Here we are. So I have my animator variable. I get a reference to the using get component to the animator that I want to talk to. And then in here, I need to get some number from the input and assign it to the animator. So I'll create a variable for my input. I'll call it forward motion, let's say, and say equals input dot get axis vertical. So Unity by default has these different buttons and axes kind of set up for you. So if you call input.getAxis and then vertical in quotes, it will automatically get the vertical axis of any joystick that's connected to the computer, as well as the WASD keys and arrow keys like in a computer game. So if I press the up arrow key, this function will give me 1, and the down arrow key gives me -1. So that's a pretty useful kind of function for you. And I'm saving that value in this float. Now, just like in our previous videos, I use a function to assign a value to one of the parameters in the animator component. So I'll go anim.setFloat this time. And then I'll type in the name of our parameter, which I forgot, so I'll just check it. It's forward speed. And then I will set the parameter, or set the value of this thing. So forward motion is the name of this variable. Okay, so I'm getting the input, saving it, getting my input here, saving it in this variable, and then I'm assigning this float to the animator using the setFloat function. So I hit save and go back into here, process for a second, and then let's try it. I'll hit play. Open this up. And if I press the forward arrow key, we're running. If I press the back arrow key, you can kind of see it here. He starts to walk backwards. And you can see he's kind of turning a little bit every time because of the way these animations are set up. Basically, his root node rotates a little bit every time he goes backwards, it looks like. That's basically how you start to control some of these motions using with the keyboard or joysticks or whatever you like. And I'm using my keyboard here, which is why it's not really doing this smooth motion through walking. It's going immediately from idle to running. But that's because the keyboard, is a digital input. It's either on or off. If I had an analog joystick, I would be able to tilt the joystick halfway and see it walking. Right, that's it.